The triumphant MACISTE and SARTANA prepare their coffins for the criminal syndicate in the jungle hell of an iguana's bumhole.
Right. Yes. So off we go with yet another YouTube video series with us two. That's me, Clive Davis, and him,
Nicholas Shenanigans.
And yeah, because we just can't put out enough content, really.
Yeah, not to satiate the incredible desire, you know, the demands, like the constant emails, the phone calls. You know, if I leave the house without wearing my wig, it's impossible to just get through the throngs demanding to hear every thought I have on everything imaginable under the sun.
I've had bomb threats.
Oh,
because someone caught me having a chat in the butchers with a neighbor about Sergio Martino.
okay.
Like, why is this not being recorded? And it got very nasty. But anyway, we're gonna try and counterbalance that by launching this new limited series, which is to be called, and I'm going to insert it here because I have temporarily displaced the piece of paper on which I wrote it down on.
Okay, okay. But for short, we're going to call it Iguana's Butthole, right?
Bumhole, I think.
Bumhole, yes, yes, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
So welcome to Iguana's Bumhole.
Yes, and so Clive, why don't you explain to the good people what the concept was, and then I'll maybe explain how we arrived at the director we're going to talk about here.
Yeah, so the idea here was we often talk about a certain period, I guess, from 50s through to 90s, where the more commercial end of the Italian film industry was full steam ahead, right?
Yeah.
Very, very, very productive. And it was interesting because a lot of their commercial cinema were these kind of cycles that were triggered by hit films, right? So you'd have one thing would be hit, and then they'd make about 7 billion films in that genre, and then another one, and another one, and another one.
Interestingly, sometimes those films were Italian films, and then sometimes they were not. Sometimes they'd be American, or you know,
right.
Yeah. But in any case, the copycats would leap into the fray, and you'd get they churn out in some cases hundreds and hundreds of films of the same genre.
And some would, you know, and so just to give an example, so for example, when Hercules with Steve Reeves was a big hit, you suddenly had all these Hercules, Maciste, Uranus, all these movies, and then of course Fistful of Dollars, and you had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of spaghetti or macaroni westerns, and so on and so on, and you'd get little micro ones as well, I suppose, which were like, you know, Rambo ripoffs or
Mad Max ripoffs for a while in the 80s.
Yeah. So it's quite interesting if you're a fan of Italian exploitation cinema of a certain era. You'd notice that all these, I suppose you'd call them hack directors, director for hire, right? They would almost all have a film from whatever genre was the flavor of the time in their filmography. So we thought it would be nice to take a look. I mean, I don't know if we'll ever do this again because we might get burnt out on it. But the idea was maybe each summer or something we would focus in on one director and we would follow that trajectory through that director's filmography, right? So we wanted someone who'd been working from at least the 60s through to the 80s, and then their filmography would follow the trajectory of the trends,
the boom and bust of these generic cycles.
So,
and you know,
interesting way to look at these, look at this stuff, and it's a kind of concept I've been thinking about for a while, actually. Like, I even wanted to do. I thought it would be cool to make a, and it's copyright me, by the way, if anyone's out there thieving. I wanted to do like a fake documentary about a made-up Italian director, like a spoof.
Oh, yeah.
but whereas everything was slightly off. So for example, this in this alternative timeline, rather than Sergio Leone copying Kurosawa and making A Fistful of Dollars, it would be this other director, and they would be like Ozu instead. So it should be a very talky Western where not much happened, but it was all very stylish and straight line. So that was quite amusing. But that would require recreations of so many different eras of filmmaking that I'm either going to become a successful film director, which is looking less likely as the years go by, and do it in a few years when I got some money, or it's just a pipe dream. So instead of that, let's do this. Yeah. So who did we land on then, Nick? Because it was your kind of fucking stupid idea.
I thought about the filmographies of various Italian directors who, fairly or unfairly, are considered to be hack directors, and I came up with Umberto Lenzi. And the reason for that primarily is because I don't think there's any director that has a finger in as many pies as Umberto. In fact, I can only think of maybe one or two of the various, even the micro generic things that he doesn't have an example of. So, and also he's kind of like he almost straddles before, or I mean, like the beginning of his career, what we're talking about today are going to be sort of matinee films that are not necessarily even like, some of them are going to be peplums and so on, but like some of what he's doing is like historical big budget drama stuff, like the Catherine of Russia movie, right? So and then we'll also follow his career as it literally circles the drain, right, later on when he's making particularly disappointing films at the end. But the other thing is I like Umberto Lenzi, and I particularly like the brace of Polizio movies he makes in the 70s. Like, they are amongst my favorite movies, and I feel like he's been unfairly dismissed and kind of sniggered at, and kind of been, and I think that's because people see him as like, oh, he's that guy who made all the ripoffs of, like, even in cases where he invented a genre, like he invented those sketchy jungle adventure things, right, with Man from Deep River, and yet somehow Ruggero Deodato gets credit for inventing the genre, and then Lenzi is considered to be a ripoff of him, but that's patently not true. Not that those films are anything to be particularly proud of, but still. And I think that I also think that if you don't like the cop films and the war films and stuff, then if you're obsessed, if you're kind of coming to Italian cinema primarily for horror, then I agree. Yeah, he's not making the best giallos. He's not making the best ripoffs of George A. Romero. Though I have a pretty soft spot for Night of the whatever it is, Sprinting Dead. But City of the Walking Dead, right?
Yes.
Yeah. But I think I don't know. I just
but you're talking about treats that come at the
quite a bit later
of us having to wade through a whole bunch of stuff.
Well, okay, we'll get to that, because I think I enjoyed these 8 films a lot more than you did. But we'll talk about them.
So this is the way it goes. So just a little bit of background. Umberto Lenzi's years were 1931 to 2017. Born in Tuscany, and was a film critic as well at one point. And so we were pretty much able to source everything he'd directed. So prior to that, he'd been an AD on things like Last Train to Shanghai, Constantine the Great, Guns of the Black Witch, and Lo Baccio, ellipses Tu Baci, which I don't know what it means, but it sounds hilarious. And then started as a director in started as a director actually in 1958 with a short film called Ragazzi de Trastevere.
Yep.
Then his first feature in 58 in Italian and Greece. So these two we can't see.
No, yeah. So Ragazzi is based on a Pasolini story, right? Apparently.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Yeah. And it means kids of Trastevere, which is a sketchy neighborhood right across the Tiber in in Rome, which is a great neighborhood now. It's a great
So
place
maybe
to go
like
get
a
bombed.
social realisty kind of
I'm
thing.
guessing, yeah.
Right.
And then yeah, he does something called like what, Holiday in Athens or something like that, which I have no idea.
Is that an AK for Italian in Greece?
Yes, yeah, I think so.
Okay.
And that was never released, so
Right.
no one's seen it.
So with those two out the way, we are left with 46 films, right? Which we've split into.
Is it that many? I thought it was 64 because I thought we're doing 8 episodes of 8 movies, and 8 times 8.
Yeah, sorry, I got the numbers the wrong way around.
Okay, all right.
If only it were only. Yes, no, yes,
we're still thinking on your part, Clive.
It is 64 films. It's 8 by 8. It's a plank of wood. Oh no, that would be a door, like a square of wood. Or
I think so. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, all you wood and timber enthusiasts. I apologize because there's a big crossover between Lenzi fans and
people who like to watch paint dry.
Yeah. So we got 8 films here. Hooray!
Yeah. We're gonna try to keep these short ish, unless I go on at length. Clive, you feel free to cut me off.
I'm going to be I'm going to zip along through most of these.
Okay.
There's a couple that have a little bit more to say from my point of view, but I'm sure you're going to bang on at length about some of them.
Oh, so, yes.
Right. So off we go. Here we go. 1961, Queen of the Seas.
Yes. The Adventure of Mary.
Hell Below Deck, right?
Okay, and also like the Italian title is basically translated as The Adventure of Mary Read.
The Avventura di Mary Read, right?
Who is a real person, it turns out.
Yeah. Well, I'd heard. Had you not heard of Mary Read?
No, I don't think no.
Okay, yeah. Basically famous for being one of the few female pirates, right? 1685 to 1721 she lived, so she didn't live a particularly long life. I suspect a lot of pirates probably didn't.
No, I would think it's a tough life. And I did read her Wikipedia entry, and it does seem as though the film takes massive liberties.
Yes, yes. I mean, you can. I think you can kind of you can guess instinctively that all these historical ones
are taken. Yeah.
Not
the matinee version.
They're not good for homework for that essay you're working on, right?
No.
So Mary Read as played by Lisa Gastoni, and so my main thing I wrote down here was corny old bollocks.
Okay, yep, that's one reading for sure.
Yes, and this will happen a lot because we're struggling with 8 films per week. My memory will fit me a little bit. But
I can probably take up slack there because I did take fairly decent notes.
Okay, you take it away then, plot wise, because I'm struggling to remember. Sure. I kind of have the overall shape of it.
Okay.
But,
So Mary is a kind of cross-dressing thief. The movie opens up with this bizarre scene of her getting out of a carriage and then seducing a guy, taking him into a barn, and then she walks out and he's tied up and she's taken his clothes and hair. And I couldn't figure out if he was supposed to have been wearing a wig because it really didn't look like it. But she now has his hair on his head, or on her head. She goes. Yes. She goes back into the carriage. She's got her granddad with her, who apparently is her partner in crime. He's broad in terms of his performance. And then so she then tries to seduce a lady in the thing, which is interesting as well. And I guess some of this sapphic stuff does seem to be slightly drawn from the actual Mary Read. But she immediately gets caught. She gets hurled into some kind of London dungeon where she meets this fucking douchebag of a guy who is, I think, I should probably have the thing open here with people's names on it, played by Jerome Cortland, who I think is obviously not an Italian. He plays a Peter Goodwin, who is the son of like a local lord or something like that, who's just slumming and hanging out and having a good time at the jail, I guess, because that's what he does.
Well, basically, he's a knock-around playboy, and the arc of the story, right, is that he ends up having to go into the military or have to marry a woman.
Oh, yes, the wah, 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 wah,
so then
one,
eventually, of course, when Mary Read does become a pirate, they end up kind of, so it's a whole
meeting again.
tortured, annoying, romantic love thing, right? With comedy and stuff like that, and a bit of musical nonsense, and it's really fucking boring and annoying. And I would like to say that the Mary Read story seems to me to be ripe for a modern reinterpretation. I think this will go down well now.
Yes. And I think that this version of it, which kind of like makes her like an active protagonist for the middle chunk of the film and it takes all of her agency away at the end, is not the best way to treat, you know, the character. I think there's a great movie to be made as well about her, but this is not that movie. I will say though, when she shows up and Walter Barnes plays like the Captain Poof, which is actually his name, and he wears like a red leather pirate's costume, that stuff is just comedy gold for all the wrong reasons. And then what else did I like about this?
We should mention that it's Lisa Gastoni who plays Mary Read.
Yeah, she's fine. I mean, she's not great. I mean, nobody is particularly great in this
I don't
film.
think you need to torture yourself to find anything to say about it. I mean,
I would say that this is one where, like, right from the get-go, I was bothered, and this, like, it takes a while for this not to happen, whereas it seems like all the big action set pieces are really messily choreographed. Like, I can't figure out who's supposed to be fighting whom. It's like Lenzi doesn't quite know what to do. It's just people running around, falling over each other, and kind of and that kind of follows through the first couple of these.
In terms of Lenzi, the one thing actually that struck me, and I know that he did do another feature before, but that seems to be quite different. This seems to be pretty much where he begins as a commercial filmmaker, right? Like, I would say almost straight away he comes out the gate like, because this is as kind of boring and uninteresting as this is. It is a relatively lavish, handsome.
Yeah,
a lot of things going on, and I disagree with this. I think he's quite good at juggling everything, and it's actually quite impressive that he's in command of directing. Because the thing is, this is shitty and boring, but it's shitty and boring in a way that a lot of things were at this time. It's not notably terrible. It's just
no.
The problem with it is bland, right? It's bland.
Yeah, it looks quite slick, and I agree. I mean, like the camera setups are all nice, the costumes are fine. There seem to be real ships for the most part, one thing that was interesting to me was the whole thing where like there's kind of a quick love triangle thrown up where another pirate falls in love with her, and she ends up back with this douchebag, right, English lord guy, and throws her entire crew basically under the bus. Like, we're just going to assume they're all going to get hanged now. And somebody earlier in the movie says this. He's like, fucking women, you know, like they'll do this, you know, they can do this because they're pretty and they can, you know, it's when the Spanish, when they're taken by the Spanish. And I was like, wow, yeah, the movie really does like have her just completely screw over all these guys that she's been leading. And then when they're bombarding, like right near the end, there's this quite intense scene where the English are bombarding this little pirate village and they're just blowing people up. And I thought, okay, that's
I just for people watching, and I would like to just slightly amend as we go. When Nick says quite intense little scene, I'm just going to translate it into normal. There's a not at all intense scene that happens.
Okay, all right. Yeah, sorry. You'll have to adjust for your own.
He gets excited. He gets excited, you see, and you have to rein him in a little bit.
I didn't hate this. It's my least favorite of all the 8. I'll say that, but I didn't.
Oh, I don't know. It's got some stiff competitions. I'm not.
Yeah, no, I didn't mind it. And I had a character called Captain Poof.
It's not offensive, but it's just I would never watch this were it not for this.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. Let's we don't want to dwell on.
Yep.
Let's move on to some more positive negativity.
Yes.
So unfortunately, with the next film, Duel of Fire,
Yep.
which is actually one of the more interesting of the 8, potentially. But we watched it without the benefit of English subtitles or an English dub. Apparently, there was prepared for US TV English dub version.
Okay.
Some point.
But it's lost to.
It's lost or misplaced or something. Okay. So what I'm going to do here, because I think it's fairly accurate, I shall read the synopsis that I found.
Perfect.
filmaffinity.com. The younger sister of protagonist Fernando Lamas rejects the advent. Right, I'll just take that cock out my mouth and start again. The younger sister of protagonist Fernando Lamas rejects the advances of a middle-aged baron who boasts of having had every girl in the village, and leaves her home on a stagecoach, which is then waylaid by outlaws. The passengers are all killed, but not before she has been gang raped! Exclamation mark.
That's very grim for 61, I thought. I was surprised. But go on.
Lamas, knowing the reason why she had tried to start a new life elsewhere, sets out on his revenge by first eliminating the lecherous nobleman, after literally playing a game of hide and seek with him during a religious procession, exclamation mark. His plan to get even with the desperados, however, is more elaborate, as he determines to infiltrate the outfit and learn the names of every man responsible for his sister's violent death. To this end, he finds an unexpected ally in British lady journalist, I love that, lady journalist, Lisa Gastoni, who we just talked about. Intent on interviewing and, by extension, bestowing celebrity upon the group. Anyway, the hero's baptism of fire sees him single-handedly liberate one of their number from the gallows. Besides, he falls to the red-headed sister, played by Liana Orfei, or another member. Before long, the true nature of both Lamas and Gastoni are discovered. The latter is shot dead in... spoilers. The latter is shot in cold blood. Spoilers away for all of these, by the way.
Yes.
But he is hounded all over by the plains by his would-be cohorts. The type of the last act then acquires Shakespearean overtone. Might be overdoing it there, but specifically Hamlet, as the dusty ground becomes riddled with corpses, including the romantic couple expiring in each other's arms. And that makes sense to me. I watched the film. That makes sense, and it helps me follow it as well. And I suppose the interesting thing about this is it's a 1962, right? So I think if you were, if you weren't paying attention and you were following our kind of our thesis here, you'd say, oh, this is, well, it is a Western, except it's set in
Sicily.
Yeah, exactly. Which is
I think it's Sicily. Yeah.
But also, it's like 2 years before A Fistful of Dollars.
Yes, I was thinking this is the Sicilian Western, and it's also like it's almost like a proto Polizio as well. In a way, like Lenzi comes back to this stuff. Again, when he does an official spaghetti Western, but also when he starts doing his cop things, because there are cops in this, there are banditti running around. I was really interested in this too, as a kind of like a really early outlier in a way. This film stars Lorenzo Lamas's dad, Antonio Lamas, who does a great job of like
Fernando Lamas.
Fernando Lamas. Sorry, his character's called Antonio. That's why Fernando Lamas, who does a great job of like grinding his teeth and looking and glowering and looking really mad about his sister having been murdered. I don't know.
It seems like it. I mean, not to overstate it, I would guess this isn't a great film by any means. But the fact that it's a bit of a proto spaghetti western, and the fact that it has a setting that isn't the American West, and it's played
downer ending.
Seriously, and it's got a downer ending.
Like a good downer ending.
It looks like a film that should be available with subtitles. Someone should put it out. I mean, it's not gonna set the world on fire sales wise, but I think it is a kind of interesting from that, and I would like to see it properly. And I suspect it's just going to be, that's all right.
Yes,
certainly
yeah.
a lot better than Queen of fucking some of the other ones. Yeah,
I
that's
also,
to say about this one.
I did fall for his redheaded bandit girl. I thought, even though that the print is pretty muddy that we watched, I thought she was
Is
pretty.
that Liana O'Fay?
Yeah, I thought she was beautiful. Her whole dance routine had me captivated. And you know, the whole part where he kind of breaks into her place at the beginning, looking for a place to hide, and then that's the first time he finally smiles. Like it's about the 45-minute mark where he leers at her when she's adjusting her dress. And yeah, I thought she was fantastic. And I thought it was weird because so we watched the movie dubbed into German, but every now and again the English lady journalist would just randomly come out with English, like which was really strange. And
Lisa Castoni again.
Yes, Lisa Castoni again. And whoever did her German dubbing did it so that it sounded like she was speaking German as a second language, which I thought was strange and interesting. Like she had weird inflections and stuff in her German that made it sound like whoever it was trying to do her as not a native speaker of German. But yeah, anyway, I thought it was lots of fun. It was good action. I mean, the talky parts were the difficult part because I was like, well, what the hell are people talking about? They did stampede a bunch of cows.
Yes, the stampede was good. The stampede was good.
It was,
yeah, like I said, this jury's still out on this one really, but it looks as if it has a chance of being watchable.
Yeah, I agree. I would come back to this and you know, want to see it.
We should probably stop talking about it because you will get more and more excited, and in
about
10 minutes you'll be saying, "This is one of the best films in the world."
It's entirely possible.
We want to avoid that.
Which is unlikely. I will say. I would be saying that about the next one. I will say what every time I looked at the running time, I was always so happy when it was like an hour and 20, an hour and 25. I was like, yes, Lenzi. And then when it was like an hour and 40, I was like, oh, Lenzi, what? No, nothing you make needs to be 20 minutes longer than an hour and a half. I'm
pleased to hear you say that. I had a horrible feeling you might actually love this, but we are talking about
the Catherine of Russia.
Oh no!
Oh, Triumph of Robin Hood. Okay, sorry.
Yes.
No, I don't mind Triumph of Robin Hood.
Yeah, I thought you might.
Okay. Let's get there.
1962. Yeah, 1962. Yeah. No, I think what you've done is you might have followed the IMDb listing.
Okay.
Whereas I kind of again, these things might not have been released.
Oh no, you're right. Sorry, my notes are I accidentally skipped a few pages. Oh, okay. I did watch them in the same order that you sent them. Okay, yeah. So Triumph of Robin Hood, 1962. Best looking Robin Hood, I think, of that era by a long shot.
Don Burnett.
Yeah, Don Burnett looks like a more handsome version of the guy who plays Bones in the Star Trek. That Carl Urban guy will play Judge Dredd as well. He's got his little goatee. He's not wearing tights. They left that to that bodybuilder from Montreal who plays Muscle John. Little John is astonishing in this thing. But we'll get to him anyway.
Yeah, who seems to be at the end. I've never heard of him before. Towards the end of his career here as well. He was in this, and he played Pythias in The Tyrant of Syracuse the same year, which was another version of the Damon and Pythias story, which we also know in this part of the world as Run Melos, right? That story.
I don't know anything that you're talking about, Clive. What are you talking about?
I will look it up. Damon and Pythias. It's a famous.
Okay, all right, we'll do.
Have you not read Run Melos, the Osamu Dazai short story?
Nope.
Very short story. Short story.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, you should because I think you'd enjoy it. But anyway, yeah, and his real life Mrs. Giascala is in it as well. And so we should say, obviously, there's millions of versions of Robin Hood.
Yeah.
So this seems to be. It credits the
I wondered about this too
version, right?
Is there an Alexander Dumas version?
He wrote The Prince of Thieves, right, which is the one that they made that film in the 40s, the big hit Robin Hood film.
Okay.
The big hit one after Errol Flynn. So yeah, I'd kind of forgotten that as well. But yes, it seems as Dumas is kind of responsible for some of the architecture of the Robin Hood story as we now see it, right? Because it's Robin Hood story is almost always filtered through this kind of adventure now, and it comes out.
Yes, because I mean, I think like Jen did a lot. My wife did a lot of study of this years ago and discovered that there's almost nothing like extant actually written down from the big, like when the story was originally came up. It was really a set of oral stories that it took a long time for them to be codified in any way.
Yeah, yeah. No, the Dumas thing seems to cast a long shadow across it.
Okay.
So this was,
because I know there's a few bits and pieces for me that were interesting just because they were adjustments to the version of the story I'm used to.
I just wanted to say this is shot in Slovenia and Croatia, so it's got some quite nice locations. And
yeah, the medieval stuff is good.
Yeah, I will say with this film, I will put my hands up in the air, and my criticisms of this film are entirely subjective. And I think what I realized watching this, finally, it took me a long time after suffering through many different versions of different quality. I don't like the Robin Hood story, I don't think. So it's not this film. So this film does a reasonable enough version of, you know, the expected Robin versus Sheriff of Nottingham story. It's not.
You're not a fan of the HTV version of the 80s with
I just don't get on with.
Okay.
I can't defend it. I don't get on with this. Like the whole concept is just
stealing from the rich and giving to the poor just goes over your head.
No, that's fine, but it's I don't know, this kind of hearty fucking
band of merry men
in the forest crap just it doesn't do it for I'm not putting it down, it's just for whatever reason it just flies right over my head. So even if it's a really good version,
you're not gonna.
So what is a really good, in your opinion? Because I know you're quite fond of, and I know you like that HTV version.
My wife is putting her hand in the air trying to get me to say Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves with fucking Kevin Costner because it was our first date. However, the best version of Robin Hood, I think, is actually that HTV English version starring Michael Praed.
What would come second? I mean, in terms of like a film version, what would be? Like, do you like Robin and Adrian? Or
I don't know if I've seen that many, to be honest, film versions. I've tended to always go to that TV version when I wanted to see Robin Hood as a kid. Jen's a big fan of the Disney one too, with the fox. Yeah.
What's that called?
Just Disney's Robin Hood, I would assume.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
It's an animated version.
So is it a fox?
Yes, an actual fox. Yeah. Who plays Robin Hood.
No, it's not an actual fox. It's an animated.
No, it's an animated fox. Yes.
Just to get that, so in case Pete does a big,
but yeah. So I mean, for me, I mean, you know, I think it's one of these stories that everyone who grew up in the West has the shape of, right, in your mind. You have everyone kind of knows who Friar Tuck is, who Little John is, who Robin is. You know, has an idea that there's a guy called Will Scarlet in there, the Sheriff of Nottingham. But then what's interesting about this film is it has little adjustments that I, was surprised by, because Guy of Gisborne in every version I've seen is usually the henchman to the sheriff. But in this one, he seems to be a kind of a good guy. And then there's a guy called like Black Pete or something like that, played by Nello Pazzafini, who we're going to see again and again and again and again over these next 68 films. But this, I think, is our first appearance of Nello. And he has a fairly sizable role in this compared to often he's on screen for like 30 seconds in a turban wielding a scimitar in some of the later films we're going to talk about. But I always like a bit of Nello. But yeah, so anyway, this little, like, Alan Adale isn't a lute playing douche like he normally is in this. He's just like a guy who wants to get his girl.
See, you got so much more out of this, I can tell, just because you seem more invested in the story in general. I think my problem might also just be with swashbuckling in general, because thinking of this as a Dumas thing as well, it also struck me that, I've never really got on with Three Musketeers.
Three Musketeers? Oh shit, really?
Yeah, no, I've tried to read.
Despite Oliver Reed's I remember incredible performance.
Those films, I remember they were, the talk of the schoolyard when they were on telly when I was a kid, and I never gave a shit about any of them. They were
Hey,
just,
no,
I'm not
that's
a
why I have
struggling guy.
the only reason I have fond feelings towards Michael York is probably those films, watching them as a kid.
So yeah, so I think yeah, this will. I mean, if you do, I mean, or you tell me, you'll know if you are someone who likes this sort of rubbish. Is this
Yeah,
good?
your mileage will vary, I suppose, to whether or not you like Robin Hood or not.
Well,
And then
but if you do, what do you think?
I think it's a decent enough, like, you know, early '60s kids matinee kind of version of the story, right? They're not really. It's not a heavy thing at all. It's one of the lighter films, I think, or one of the lightest films in some ways. It's breezy.
Yes.
And I think so. Samson Burke, who plays Little John, is a bodybuilder from Montreal who appears to have been in a bunch of stuff. Weird. I'd never heard of him before this. But my God, is he smuggling plums in those tights? They are indecent. And he does a lot of he must have been a wrestler as well, because he does a lot of helicoptering people around on his shoulders, which, you know, I always appreciate. But I think whoever the fucking guy is, the comedy relief guy, what the hell's his name? Brave Pete or Brave Jack or whatever his name is. The guy who finally Little John has enough of and kicks squarely in the ass. That's probably my favorite scene in the movie, just because I was like, that character is so grating. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know if you remember him, but he was gambling around pretending to be a horse at one point. He's like late middle-aged dude.
No frames from this film at all. It seems to have just bounced off my. And again, I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm just being honest that for whatever reason, when confronted by Robin Hood, it just bounces off. It's like I refuse to take it in. I don't know why. It's very strange.
Okay. Yeah. I thought a very boring King Richard as well here. For me, he definitely didn't have any screen presence whatsoever. Yeah, no, it was whatever. It wasn't great, and it wasn't for me. It wasn't. I didn't suffer. It was just. Right. It was a kids matinee, and it was fine for what it was.
Okay, so on to 1962's Italian-French Yugoslavian co-production, Catherine of Russia.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to have been a bit of a, even though it's only 98 minutes, so it's not necessarily epic in length. This feels very much like they're going for the epic, right? With the
I feel like this is a prestige Lenzi production, more than any of the other ones.
This probably had a pretty big release when it came out, right?
Yeah.
Again, it's a meddling piece of history. Catherine II of Russia, and again, a very well told tale of her kind of usurping her mad husband. Was it Peter II or the Third? I can't remember.
Yeah. Duke Peter is he's awesome. He was one of the standouts for me in this film, because he looks like young. What's the guy from Genesis? Phil Collins. He has this kind of like skeevy Phil Collins quality about him, and then occasionally when he really loses it, he looks like
skeevy Phil Collins. You mean Phil Collins?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he looks like Phil Collins, and then every now and again when he's really having a tantrum, he becomes Robin Williams for a few frames. Like, I got screenshots where I defy you to not see what I've just said.
Yeah, this is Raul Gracili. Yes, and as you said, he's quite fairly committed.
He's maybe the best thing in the film, I think, because I think Hildegard Neff is I think, like, just Botox wasn't invented back then, right? Because why does she have this frozen face? But you know, she was Goebbels. Well, he had a thing for her.
Is that right?
Yeah. If you read her Wikipedia entry is quite interesting. Okay. Apparently, when she was like a young, like when she was a teenager, I don't know if she was already an actor or a dancer or something, but apparently he was attempting to groom her, and her family was like, "You're not having anything to do with the inner party Nazis.
You're not getting your Goebbels anywhere near our Hildegard."
Yeah. Exactly. Which I think only did her career a favor, I would imagine, later on, not having been his girlfriend.
Right.
But yeah,
And the other major
she's
is
a bit
Sergio
flat.
Fantoni. Yeah, Sergio Fantoni plays Orloff, right? Who's like, again, they've turned it into this romantic
Yes.
thing.
With a wicked mullet, which you don't think about, because he's got the short hair on top and the ponytail at the back. But and you think about, wait, if he releases the ponytail, that's going to be a spectacular mullet.
I can see you were. I can just tell by that comment you were struggling for things of interest to latch onto while watching this one.
It looks nice. It looks nice. There's lots of big dance scenes and you know, wherever they filmed it
is fucking
ballroom dancing.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I mean,
no, this was definitely not my favorite, because for me it was overlong. You know, I was like, although I would laugh, they would always have these scenes of her at the palace, you know, like having there's one scene where they're having some sort of like outdoor, she's acting out Greek theater or whatever, and then it was smash cut to Orlov in his like long trail of guys getting whipped, you know, like, and then back to her having fancy party time, and then back to Orlov's like shitty life up in Siberia. And plus, did you notice one of my favorite scenes of the whole movie is like, so Orlov basically pisses off Peter at the very beginning of the movie, right? Because he stops him from massacring a bunch of peasant Cossacks because they're hungry, and so he then ends up getting shipped off.
Proper mustache twirling villain.
Oh yeah, although he's also, I mean, he's kind of sympathetically pathetic as the film goes on, and you see that he's clearly mentally unhinged. He does become slightly more just pathetic, I guess, by the end. But yeah, so he gets exiled, but in doing so, like when they go to arrest him, his buddy Alan, which is a really good Russian name, kind of tries to get in the way and gets like shot and then also exiled. So Alan's kind of stumbling along, and Orlov, being a manly, you know, gentleman, is trying to help him along, but he can't. He's just getting too tired. And then this massive dude who must have just walked off the set of a Maciste movie wearing a peasant smock with the tits cut out. It's one of the weirdest things. Walks up and is like, "I'll hold him for you," and like lifts him up like a baby. And you're like, every now and again, you start seeing these. And this is the first one where, like, actually, Little John as well. You start seeing these guys who you know are also doing afternoon shifts over in the Lion Pit or whatever on some Messalina movie. So I enjoyed everything he brought to the table, because he shows up a bunch of times in the movie, and every time he seems completely out of place. Who is this massive bodybuilding Cossack peasant? He's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, doing well for himself in terms of calories, considering that.
Yeah, he's taking a lot of protein in for a starving peasant.
In fact, I would be suspicious of him if I was in the village and everyone else is starving, and he's like, "What's up? What are the cattle's gone missing? You wouldn't know anything, would you, Boris?" "Oh, no, not me."
Yeah. And so yeah, basically we just get Catherine being kind of used as a pawn by some Polish count guy who's there to, I don't know, it was all a bit mystifying to me. He was working for the French possibly, and then eventually
it's just one of those examples for me. It's one of those like potentially fascinating historical stories where they've like taken anything potentially interesting out of it and present, here we go, here's the like, not even vanilla, because vanilla is a flavor, just
the Ladybird edition for small children who don't want to be.
Even those, I mean, you know, you read it in like 5 minutes or something, right? But this thing goes on a bit. Again, not too much, considering it is kind of an epic. I suppose it could have been worse, right? It's 98 minutes, but yeah,
it's not Dr. Zhivago, thank God.
Right. Although Dr. Zhivago is a much better.
Yes.
So yeah, there we go. So it is, again, it's one of those things. It sounds like we're just being lazy, but it is what it is, and there's no point you hoping for it to be anything other than what it is, right? It's just because I think sometimes when people maybe look out, because obviously Hollywood is making this kind of film as well, right? And I think sometimes people think, oh, maybe the European version had a little bit more bite to it, but no, they were doing these black films as well at this time, right?
It's funny. There's a TV series right now that's doing quite well on about Catherine of Russia, and Nicholas Hoult plays Peter in it. And
Yeah.
he plays him like an absolute piece of shit. Like everything in this film, and you know, there's moments. I mean, there's effective moments where, for example, when he tries to humiliate her at parties and stuff, and you know, where you're like, yeah, he is a dick. But Nicholas Holt's version is like, whew,
yeah, I
wow.
haven't seen it, but I've heard it's very good actually.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, so that might be, if you want the story of Catherine of Russia, that's probably a much better bet to get something a bit with a lot more edge and probably a bit more historical.
Is it what's her name? Ellie Fanning as well?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Sold. Right. On we go.
Okay.
1963. Invincible Masked Rider.
Now, before you go any further, Clive, I fucking loved this movie. And I don't know why. I don't really have an excuse, because the first 30 minutes of it are like meh, but the last 45 minutes of it were, for me, mwah.
Okay.
But right. let's unpack this.
Let's see you back that up. So yeah, Terror, aka Terror of the Black Mask.
Yeah.
Right? And
based on a story by the fellow who wrote Zorro, which I didn't, for some reason, I didn't realize that Zorro was a series of pulp. I'm sure I should have known that. I've only ever really known him as a cinematic phenomenon as a kid.
Well, that's the thing that interested me ever so slightly about this, is the fact that it is a Zorro film in all but name, right? So Pierre Brice plays Don Diego, right? But
yes,
basically Zorro.
Yeah, and I think Don Diego is actually Zorro's name, like in the Zorro, like
yeah, it's a slightly strange, especially when you pair it with the next one we're going to talk about, where Pierre does actually play Zorro.
Zorro, yes, and it's the same actor. Although I prefer his performance in this. So this may be to do with the German dub, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, so this one is plague-riddled Portugal and Spain, right?
Yes. Doesn't it begin with somebody basically saying, fuck Portugal? Like there's an opening scene where that made me laugh out loud.
So what's going on here then, Nick? Seeing as you have a lot to say about this, you might as well take the lead.
So basically what you've got is you've got Spain, you've got the plague, you've got this guy called Don Luis, who's a total dick, who lives in a castle.
Daniel Vargas.
Yes, yeah, he's good. And we very briefly see Zorro near the beginning, but he basically disappears off screen for the first 25 minutes or so of the film, like in both versions, the masked version and the non-masked version. So instead what we get is this guy shows up to Don Luis' place with his dog because he wants to breed the dog with the Don's dog. And the Don lusts after both his daughter and his land and money, so he very quickly has him killed by a bunch of bandits that he clearly has hired that do his bidding out in the countryside. And then he takes her into his castle as like his new ward, basically. But at the same time, the plague is broken out, and this is one of the things I like, because I quite like all those scenes. They'll have parties at the castle, and they'll smash cut back to like dudes in the big pointy black hats with like crosses and big flaming piles of corpses.
A bit Mask of the Red Death, isn't it?
Yeah. You know, it had, you know, little bits of like the
Except nowhere near as good. I was just
and then so this is going on. There's like, you know, and so the Don basically decides, well, the best thing to do here is I should just shut my castle up. So a bunch of the local townspeople come running to the castle asking to get in because they're like, we don't want to die of buboes. And he's like, get fucked, get out of here. And they're, you know, knocking people off the ramparts and stuff. And then he's like, oh, wait a second. There's like hardly any chicks in the castle. So the Don comes up with a great idea. Send out a bunch of guys and round up all the women out there, drag them back into the castle, and send the men off to die of plague. So he does this. And there's a whole scene that's just really weird and sketchy.
This part is good. I like this bit.
I'm not surprised, Clive.
Just because it's kind of like, it's fascinating to see someone in 1963 in this context, kind of pushing the boundaries of quite how sketchy you can do this sort of
in a matinee
ostensibly kind of family friendly. Because they round up these women, and then they give them sulfur bath treatments, right? Which is, it's not graphic or anything like that, but it seems it's just a few steps away from like something from Mark of the Devil or something like that, like all these being
and also
in this medieval.
It has slightly disturbing overtones of like you know, later questionable Italian kind of like love camp things as well.
Yes.
With everything about it was just like, wow, this seems like it's from a different film.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can see some of like maybe Lenzi's cogs going like, you know, where I'm going to be in another 10, 15 years.
No, these were quite interesting. These bits were quite interesting. And also then, of course, when they've all been successfully deloused or whatever, then again, and it's not graphic or anything, but then again, it's not exactly coy about it either. It's basically, it's gang rape time, lads. So they've got the ladies are out with their grapes and their hunks of meat, and they're just chasing them around the castle. And you think, oh, okay. I mean, this is like surprising. Again, it's not graphic or anything like that, but it's just
but just the subject matter. Is like what it's I was surprised.
That's like 10-minute section or something. It's not as if it's a better made or anything like that, but it was just so kind of jarringly dodgy in like we said, something else that is ostensibly just a kind of matinee thing. That was interesting to me.
So at this point, obviously, you know, the I can't remember, I think her name's Carmencita. You know, she's the young lady that's been kind of taken in against her will, whose dad's been murdered. She's kind of appalled at all of what's going on, and then Don Diego's nephew, or sorry, no, Don Luis's nephew, Don Diego, shows up.
Yeah, by the way, we've already spoiled this, by the way, but it's pretty easy to see coming. I mean,
played by Pierre Brice. I mean, there is a bit of a reveal later on, because I wasn't sure whether or not Pierre was like where Don Diego was supposed to actually be legitimately his nephew, because he hasn't seen this nephew since the nephew was a kid. But we know right away that this nephew, whoever he is Zorro. There's no surprises there. But this version of Zorro, I like, because he's like negative space. Because he's completely black. Like he's got like a black stocking mask, like straight out of a Giallo film. Black hat, black. He's like, when he's running around, he just looks like a shadow, like a living shadow. And his scenes where he's stalking around in the castle, like, and toying with these people, really feels to me like something out of a Mario Bava film. And
I quite like Pierre Brice as well, when he is revealed to be. I quite like Pierre Brice's character throughout it, because he's a proper, when you mix this in with the other dog, like he's a proper anti-hero in terms of like every now and again he kind of just leaves people to their fate. Well, I can't wait to think about that.
Absolutely.
And he's not in any hurry to kind of reveal himself to be the hero. Like he doesn't really give a shit if you think.
No, and he spends the whole movie gaslighting Carmencita, because and which he does in the next movie again, wooing her as both versions, wooing her as his Zorro character and as Don Diego. But Don Diego this is what I loved. It sounds like he's been dubbed by Udo Kier. He's this super foppish kind of like, oh, like I can't be bothered, like, and I
another peasant on the fire.
Yeah, he's just, you're like, yeah, this guy is this is Zorro, and he also looks a lot like Chris Sarandon, especially in this more than in the next film, from like Princess Bride, which just adds to the whole foppish asshole quality that he brings. So yeah, I loved all that stuff. Loved him running around murdering people at night. There's lots of incident, but like it never got like tiresome. Some of the later films, there's so much incident that you start losing track of what the hell's happening. But in this film, it's very clear through line.
Yeah, it skips along the, it's got a. I loved it less than you, in so much as I wouldn't use the L word, but I certainly found bits of it interesting and notable, and I perked up at certain dodgy scenes, and
our old pal Nello's in there.
Nello. And also there's the very strange line of dialogue. It's a shame that the beautiful women in India eat garlic. It's horrible.
Yeah, that's weird from a movie made in Spain about Italians.
I did.
Yeah, but that's just more of his weird more of Pierre's weird, foppish, and he's not an actor I was really aware of, but apparently he appears to have played. Okay, yeah, because he appears to have played like Winnetou or whatever in tons of Carl May. So primarily he's famous.
Massive in Germany. I think he might have even done some like German TV series, and yeah,
right into the 70s. It looks like he was still, or in the 80s, still working in these Carl May adaptations.
I haven't because a German friend of mine mentions him every now and again as like one of those guys from that era, you know, like.
Okay. Yeah, no, I really like him. I like him fine in the next one as well. I think this is quintessential. It's that kind of. It's just that he's such an asshole in his alter ego. He's not quite such a dick in his Don Diego character in the next film.
Well, yeah, but, the next film is a bit more bland again because it doesn't have any of the dodginess, right? So it's kind of.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
I do want to mention one more thing that I really like about this. So when the thing finally, when the plague is over, and they're like, okay, we're gonna celebrate now, and let's just forget. Like Don Luis, like, you know, if we party hard enough with the folks in the town, nobody's gonna remember us kidnapping all the women and throwing them off the ramparts when they tried to get in. So it's good. And then they have this mad masquerade party with like huge paper mache masks. And that whole section, which it's clear, it's clear that Lenzi was like, "I'm going to get value for those masks. You know, we're using those again next week when we do the sequel." But yeah, I quite like the masked ball scene.
You're wrong. You're wrong, Nick. It's not a sequel at all because he's a Don Diego, and the next film is Zorro, who's a totally different character.
Oh, I see. Yeah, and besides, they keep referring to him as Robin Hood in this German print. In fact, the title of the German version is Robin Hood something something.
Right. And the American release title of this one was Samson and the Slave Queen, which is very yes. Originally Zorro contra Maciste, which is a bit more like it, Italian, Spanish. So this kind of interests me a little bit because I am fascinated. So we're kind of skirting, I mean, properly only just skirting the peplum here, right?
Yes, we'll get there, I think, in the next episode.
After Steve Reeves as Hercules and Hercules Enchained, yes, there were a whole bucket load of, you know, Hercule
men wearing tiny skirts. My wife is a big fan of the peplum.
I am also a big fan, oddly enough.
As am I.
Yes. I do like me a peplum. Again, I don't know why I don't get on with Robin Hood, but I get on with but I do like
a big muscle man with a big polystyrene rock.
Yes, yeah, and I think that's what's missing in this film is there's not much peplum in it. But what fascinates me is how the genre of the peplum went from more or less kind of following Greek mythology, and then kind of Greece, Rome, ancient Mesopotamia, no one knows the difference, and then kind of turned into this weird ancient world melting pot setting for all these things. And then they went even further, and then they started turning up all over the place. So in this case, Sergio Ciani, also known as Alan Steele, Hercules and the Masked Rider, which is a very similar film to this. It's basically Zorro contra Maciste, in the same way as Zorro isn't Zorro in Zorro in Hercules and the Masked Rider, not played by Pierre Brice in that one. So here he is turning up in with Zorro, right? And again, Zorro
15th century Spain or something.
Yeah. I don't even know if Zorro should actually be in this, but that's slightly more believable, right?
Yes, yeah, because isn't Zorro supposed to be in California, right?
Yeah, and again, which actually that does make sense. That is Zorro's territory, isn't it? But
yes,
or Asultan or whatever it would be.
Yes.
But of course, in the American dub as well, he's now the biblical Samson, right? I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, yes.
This
And it really,
totally
it's funny.
fascinates me.
I was asking this question to Jennifer. I was like, this is really confusing to me because I know that like Maciste as a character is supposed to, it's like he comes from Roman times, right? Like the original Maciste.
Yeah, he's in like Capiria and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what, like how is he supposed to be interacting with Zorro? And Jen was like, well, it's like those movies where they have Stegosauruses fighting T-Rexes, which apparently were separated by 80 million years of history. So obviously
details.
That's clearly a lot less than 80 million years. That's only a couple of hundred, you know, maybe 1,000.
So comparatively, it's pretty.
Yeah. We can hand wave that away.
Authentic.
I think so. Yeah. So this is basically the one that it's about two princesses, right? Their uncle has died. He's going to leave. Apparently, one of them he's going to leave the kingdom to. The king of Nogara, wherever the hell that is.
Basically, it's kind of exactly the same story as the previous film, more or less. You got the plague.
Without the plague.
No, there's a plague in this as well.
Is there?
Yeah, they talk about a plague. There's a whole plague thing, and it's succession shenanigans,
right.
with one woman. And so basically,
Maciste there's a good cousin and a bad cousin, right? There's the blonde cousin, who's the good one, and there's Malva, who's the far more interesting bad cousin, who looks like a Disney wicked queen.
Yeah. And Maciste is hired by
Malva, the bad one.
Yeah, to get a hold of a scroll that will say who actually is properly in possession. And then Zorro is actually in disguise, is because she doesn't know the other one's girlfriend, boyfriend, actually, right? It's her.
Yes, and he's not as much of an awesome fop, but he's a slight fop because he is a poet and he's going off to France or something to like have his book of poetry published. But hence, he can be off screen while Zorro is there.
The details are slightly different, but it plays so much like the other film, down to having almost exactly the same sexy gypsy dance scene.
Yes.
Like, the only thing it has different is Alan Steele, who's, a nice dullard. So the main problem with Zorro contra Maciste is there's not enough Maciste, and he doesn't get to do any cool Maciste things. So he fights a crocodile, which but it's not really that great. And then the other feat of strength that I remember him doing is pulling up a drawbridge. Now, so there's just a paucity of styrofoam rock throwing.
Yes, I agree. Oh no, he does actually he throws a spear and it goes through two dudes. Like he shish kebabs them, which is all right.
I can do that.
Okay.
Yeah. No.
It's not manly enough for you.
No. He has to be picking up big things. He did it. I mean, I know it's too much to ask, but he didn't throw a bear into space. But anything, he didn't do anything comparable either. He didn't do anything, approaching anywhere near that. Just kind of bumbled about.
That is the litmus test that all other things are judged by, is whether or not somebody throws a bear into space.
Yeah, that's Citizen Kane, pretty good. No one throws a bear into space. Comes up a little short.
You know that I told Luigi Cozzi, director of Hercules, that about you and that you love that scene. So he was quite gratified to know that somebody else appreciated Hercules throwing a bear into space.
It's a stroke of genius.
But so when we first introduced to Maciste, he's in the town square, doing like John Mickle Thor feats of strength, like busting out of chains with his man boobs and bending big steel bars. But you're right, it's definitely not throwing any kind of large species of mammal into the cosmos. So. But yeah, I mean, it's funny because there's a lot of him running around. I feel like the movie actually probably has slightly more of him than it has of Zorro. Yeah,
but he doesn't do Maciste-like things.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's because he feels out of place in this modern world that he finds himself.
Doesn't want to draw attention to himself too much.
Right. Yeah.
He also wears a beautiful little leather vest thing that looks right out of a Rob Halford wet dream. when he's not just bare chested.
He looks not, but he's almost too. Like I said, he's a bit of a dullard. Is Alice?
Well, yeah, and he's written that way. He's written to be a kind of like a plodding nice guy who doesn't realize. There's actually a great, the Chekhov's trapdoor. Like if in the first act of a film somebody shows you a trapdoor, you better bet that trapdoor is showing up in Act 3. And he doesn't catch that. So yeah, he a couple of times falls into dungeon holes, and then no, he's not the brightest guy. I did enjoy the part where he drinks an entire bucket of water though. Like he stops momentarily at a well, and he's just like, that was manly to me. Like, he's not going to sip. He's going to
see me in this hot weather, Nick. I'm all the man you need when it comes to drinking buckets of water. So I mean,
but Maciste does go to a fancy dress pub that appears to be possibly hosting the same. And then we get Pierre Brice wearing the most awesome Satan mask, and there's a whole bunch of I got a bunch of great screen caps of just how weird that actually looks when you just pause for a moment, look at what's going on there.
I wouldn't be surprised if this was filmed back to back, right?
I had to have been.
Yeah.
Well, they obviously had Pierre Brice or whatever, right? So they were gonna get their money's worth. And then there's also there's a whole other group. There's Rabek, who's like this sketchy bandit guy, and that's where we see Nello. Nello shows up fairly briefly as one of Rabek's guys.
Nello's becoming the Hussarsia of this show already.
Oh, there's always room for Nello.
Yes.
But yeah, so basically, and then there's another girl called Carmencita, which is confusing because a momentarily I was like, wait, is this, because it seems as though to me that our Zorro has moved on from the great love of the last movie to somebody else. But then, there's another character with the same name.
He's flaky, that Zorro.
Yes, and then she ends up together with.
No, what am I talking about? Totally different. That was Don Luis.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Not Zorro at all. That was Robin Hood.
Different.
Who, for some reason, dressed all in black and had a hat and a rapier. Anyway, another scene I quite like was that it was a bizarre scene where Rabek shows up and demands money because he says he's got the scroll thing that the Wicked Queen wants, and so they go to this pub, and then he's like, "Give me the money," and they give him the bag, and he takes a really long time. He decides to count it by pouring it all out on the floor, basically, like counting the 1,000 gold coins, and then they shiv him, and then I swear 2 minutes later, one of his thugs comes in and is like, "Oh, give me that gold," and they shiv him as well. It's like the same exact scene twice in a row. I was like, quality writing. Thanks, Lenzi.
Oh, I don't think he wrote it, did he?
I don't think he wrote it, no.
Right, okay. Yeah. I think,
I don't know what else to say. Lots of incident, lots of dramatic incident, but not a lot to really.
So now we jump. We go to Ceylon or Sri Lanka, that's now known.
Yes.
For our last two films here of this episode. So we begin with so I have to do a bit of research here. About Sandokan. Right. So yes. So as created by Emilio Salgari, right?
I didn't know this myself. That he was a novel character, basically, or a character from novels.
Late 19th century. Now, I think if you go looking this up on Wikipedia, you might be led slightly astray, right? Because the thing with Emilio Salgari was an Italian writer, massively popular in Italy, and also translated into Spanish. So across Spanish-speaking countries, he's also very, 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 very popular, and there's lots of adaptations of his work and stuff. But in English, not so much. In fact, I don't think any, or at least hardly any of his books were translated into English until like the past 20 years. There's like Kindle editions, because I downloaded a couple and tried to read them. I couldn't so this is the confusing thing. So according to Wikipedia will tell you that the book The Mystery of the Black Jungle is the first of the Sandokan series. Now,
Okay.
I downloaded this and started reading. I didn't finish it. It wasn't great. It's okay, but it's just not great. But I don't think it is a Sandokan. He might turn up later in the book. I didn't get that far. But his other main two characters he created is Tremal Naik and his manservant Kamamuri. And they are the stars of Mystery of the Black Jungle. And I think a little bit later, not in this episode, but when we get to the next Sandokan film, I think they might have mashed together Sandokan and Tremal Naik.
Okay.
And confusingly, the Kindle version that you downloaded also has Mystery of Black Jungle as Sandokan #2. And I don't think it is. I'm pretty sure it's not a Sandokan adventure. But there was a series of books with Sandokan, who's basically like a Bornean prince, right? Who is kind of forced to become a hero and a rebel because of colonial British and Dutch colonial. So the East India Company killed his
mom and his sister. At least in the movie, it's his mom.
No, in the books, I think it's his father who's killed or something like that. Or his whole family. Anyway, the point is, what's interesting about him is that he is an anti-colonial character.
Yes.
Which I find
was Jules Verne's Nemo, right?
Yes. But just like Jules Verne, or whoever the fuck you say it, it's it's like there's oh, hang on now, we've gone a bit too far there, being politically correct. Why not we balance it with some more overt racism? I don't know about in the books, but certainly there's a bit of that in the film.
Oh yes, for sure. And in fact, you almost get whiplash as well watching the last two films back to back,
right?
Because film #1, the Sandokan film, is pretty full-throated kind of denunciation of British colonialism. And the white elephant, whatever the thing it's called, is like Temple of Doom.
It's very Temple of Doom, isn't it?
Right.
It's funny that what I liked about, hang on, let me just get a bit more of the background out of the way. Right? You got this here. So then in 1941, there were a couple of Italian Sandokan films, Pirates of Malaysia and The Two Tigers. And then, so Lex Barker played Tremal Naik, that great Bornean actor, Lex Barker.
Oh, yes.
Played Tremal in Mystery of the Black Jungle. And, but like I said, I don't think, I only just mentioned them just in case I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure the Tremal Naik and Sandokan series are separate things. Okay. I'm not 100% sure. So you got these well, we'll be talking about one of them today, but there's two Steve Reeves Sandokan films.
Yes.
But around the same time, Ray Dunton played Sandokan in another couple of films as well.
Also made in Italy, I assume.
Yes, I think so. And then, well, we'll get to this when we get to Temple of the White Elephant, because they're not really Sandokan films, but they kind of play as if they might be part of and then so there's another so in 1970 there's a Tigers of Montparnasse, which is the original title of this film, right?
The
so I'm guessing it's the same book, and that has that other paleface, Ivan Razimov.
All right.
And interestingly enough, so Sandokan, as played by Steve Reeves in the film we're going to talk about in a minute, in the books, his sidekick is Yanez, right, who's played by Andrea Boschik in this film.
The most British sounding Portuguese fellow I've ever heard. Yeah. And
he also plays Yanez to Razimov's Sandokan in the 1970 film.
Okay, so there's supposed to be a through line there, or it's supposed to be the same.
So then basically what happened, you got all these versions, and then finally they actually got someone.
Yes, because of course Sergio Salima directed that TV version. I assume that's the TV version you're going to talk about.
Yeah, this is Kabir Bedi, the Indian actor, played Sandokan in what seems to have been a pretty well-regarded
Oh yeah.
series, like
Oh, it's supposed to. Well, I mean, Sandokan, Sandokan.
Oliver
Warm
Onions.
and tender is the love, and people know the way to love, etc., etc.
I can only apologize, viewers, but yes. So there was it's only 6 episodes, but apparently this thing was very fondly remembered, and then followed up with like a TV movie, and then another couple of miniseries. So Kabir Bedi finally, I think, is Sandokan for quite rightly too. He's kind of a bit closer to
ethnically appropriate, I think is the term.
Yes.
Yes. Steve Reeves is a bit of a genetic miracle with his blue eyes.
Yes, so
not many Malaysians,
of course, kickstarted this whole fucking pet blood thing.
Yes.
And after being Ercole and a few other people, and he's in War of the Trojans, and he's in quite a few muscle man epics, and then decided, I've had enough of that now. I'm broadening my range. Thankfully, he didn't get the gravy browning out, although some other extras in this film did.
Holy crap, yes. There's so much of that in both of the next two films.
He's quite dapper, and he's got his turban, and he plays Sandokan for 2 films, this one, and next episode we'll be talking Pirates of Malaysia. And then he made a spaghetti western, and then he retired, right? I think is the Steve Reeves.
Yeah, apparently he hurt himself quite badly doing one of the peplums, and it just got worse and worse. And I guess he says that he quit because, he was dealing with chronic pain and didn't want to.
There's only so many styrofoam rocks you could throw
before you wrench something.
They take their toll. Have you seen, just incidentally, have you seen the Western he was in, A Long Ride to Hell? I've not seen it.
No, but I've it's one of those things that I've read about a bunch of times, because it always comes up when they bring up like idea of like how it just didn't work to have the peplum actors poured into these like jeans and these shirts. They look like bulldozers, right? And that's why it gave the chance.
Bulldozer. It's another Oliver Onions. If you can get away with singing Oliver Onions, then so can I. Yeah.
Okay.
I am the sheriff. Woo, the sheriff.
Here's to being free. La 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 la. Lazaro's back.
Right. Any potential viewers have now fucked right off.
Yep. So yeah. I as I said, I was surprised by this. This is a weird one for me because, like, on the one hand, you've got like the story is quite like quite full on anti-British colonialism. Like it opens with the redcoats basically strafing people like inside a fort, like they're
proper cackling. I mean, it's not like, I don't know if you've seen the recent Tamil hit RRR, which is a huge international Indian film. Have you not heard of this?
No.
Oh, and it's like what's his name with the recently deceased Ray Stevenson, right, who played Punisher in Punisher Warzone. He's he's one of the like proper mustache twirling, cackling villains. But Lenzi was doing it here 60 years prior. Almost. Yeah,
I was surprised, and then in fact, like later in the film, quite near the end, after one of the characters, the niece has kind of like switched sides and joined Sandokan and his merry band. She's witness to one of the other redcoats basically telling a story about like, it was awesome was when we murdered Sandokan's sister and mom. That was hilarious. She bit me. I was like, Jesus, like, just there.
You are talking about here. I'd never seen this actress before. Genevieve Grad.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
I like Genevieve. She's quite lovely.
I agree. She has a bit of like, but in fact, she's cuter, but a bit of Keira Knightley kind of like that sort of vibe to me. That British, upper class lady caught up in these piratey kind of
French, I think, isn't she? I think.
Yes. French. Yeah. But no, she is cute.
So Steve Reeves, the famous Bornean actor, is Sandokan.
Yeah.
And basically, his father is quite interesting that actually you never see.
Nope, we never see his dad.
Forgot to film or something, and
then he dies off camera.
Yeah. So his father, the Sultan, is kidnapped by colonial forces. Therefore, he is forced to kidnap Genevieve Grau, who is the daughter of some kind of
yes, Lord Hillock. Lord Hillock, which is a great name.
Yes. And trekking through the jungle, and of course they fall in love, right? So
yes,
and it's 111 minutes long.
That scene, it needs about 15 minutes trimmed, and it all should be extraneous David Attenborough footage of animals
and comic relief chimpanzees.
And the comic, oh my god, the smoking chimp.
Returns, I think, is that the same footage in Temple of the White Elephant?
But
I think it is. I think it's the same chimpanzee.
It is. Oh, it definitely is. Yeah. No, it's and it might be. It's an outtake from the scene where the chimp first shows up in the tree and throws something at Yanez's character, and it's the same tree, same monkey.
The set now that it's developed addiction to tobacco that they gave it.
I just wandered back. No, I'm pretty sure. Just like with the tiger,
for another cigarette.
Just like the tiger that appears in both films, and it's clearly the same tiger shot in the same bunch of footage. But that's the thing I love. So basically, I quite like the scene where Yanez goes in and pretends to be a British. I guess his Portuguese accent doesn't give away because he speaks the Queen's English tremendously well. He's also a big tea drinker for some reason.
He needs tea. Yeah.
Portuguese drink a lot of tea.
It does seem like it's supposed to be a British character, doesn't it?
It does. It's kind of weird. But anyway, he's a cool character because basically he's, gone native, right? Like he's married Sandokan's sister, I guess the one who got murdered. And then he's just thrown his lot in with the locals. He's like, fuck this.
It reminded me a little bit. There's something a bit John Steiner about him.
Yes. Yeah. Totally. So he goes in and he convinces everybody that Sandokan's already dead. They don't need to worry. They can send the guards away. And then Sandokan's guys show up and just wreck the joint. Like there's a lot of people getting thrown over balconies and falling entire floors and hitting the ground.
Good stunt work.
Kind of like Hong Kong action. Like where was the airbag for that guy? No. People just rolling downstairs onto their necks. So that was all good, and people getting shot like point blank. The benefits
of shooting in Sri Lanka, I think, is judging by because we're going to say to counterweight the fact that they have these very villainous and it's very anti-colonial. However, clearly at the beginning of every day, they picked up a bunch of extras in a truck, put them in a sheep dip full of gravy browning, and then. So there's lots of skulls on sticks and
when the headhunters show up.
It
starts nodding towards stuff that we'll see from Lenzi in another decade or so. I was like, oh, this is where some of this jungle adventure stuff definitely starts here.
Well, also quite amusingly, at some point, someone more or less says, I'm paraphrasing, but it might as well be, I wonder who the real pirates are.
Right.
Yes, made me laugh.
But I love the scene basically when they've kidnapped Cutie, whatever her name is, Marianne, Genevieve. Yeah, they and that they weren't intending to kidnap her. She just happens to be there, and he's not. They were there to kidnap Hillock, and he's scarpered because he's a fucking cowardly scumbag, and left his niece there. So they take her, but then she immediately tries to escape and comes a cropper of a massive real tiger, which I have a great screen cap of that tiger jumping on not Steve Reeves. It's very clearly his stunt double, who looks like he is shitting himself in the screenshot. Like that stunt looked stupid dangerous.
It's weird though, there's a mixture of some really quite good stunt work and then really piss poor fight choreography. There's like a scene later on where people are like, whoo, and throwing fists like at least 5 centimeters away from each other's face. Right. It's quite obviously I don't know, some stuff got past them in the edit or
but I love that there's a great little exchange of facial expressions, which again I had to screen cap right there because it's at that moment where she goes all gooey. There's a scene of her just like staring at Steve Reeves like, oh my, like, you manly man, you stabbed a fucking tiger to death with a little knife to save me. And he gives her this look like, what's wrong with you? Like, it's an awesome little moment. And anyway, then the monsoon comes. She gets into a wet T-shirt, and then he has, But I assume this is like Steve Reeves Stockholm syndrome, right? Like you can't spend too long with a sinewy muscle man before you just adopt his worldview.
Interesting you should say that, because of course among Steve Reeves has a weird filmography. Among other things, of course, he's in an early role of his is in Ed Wood's Jailbait, right? He's like the
really?
Yeah. And I remember reading in that book Nightmare and Ecstasy, it's Dolores Fuller, right? Talks about being on the set of that film with Steve Reeves, and I think she has a kissing scene or something with him, and she makes this point. She says it was really weird because usually if you're pressed up against that kind of big hunk of man, no matter who they are, you're like, you can't help feeling a little something, she said, is the way she put it. But she was saying when she had a kissing scene with Steve Reeves, it was just nothing, like nothing, no tingly sensation, nothing. And apparently he liked nothing more than sitting around and gossiping with the girls.
Okay, so he may be more Rock Hudson than
he might be
anything.
Dorothy.
Okay,
to throw shade on anyone, or I don't give a shit either way. But
who cares? He was a hunk of man. I mean, I'm sure that would just add to the mystique for many of his fans.
To be fair, I mean, despite the fact that Sandokan in this film, like, on the one hand, I can see, like, he doesn't actually do anything that extraordinarily heroic.
Right.
He does come across Steve Reeves looking very dapper and with the turban and the facial. He does have a somewhat commanding presence and a very gentle way. Like, you can see why people follow him.
Yeah, no, I agree.
There's like a little scene where some lookout has been out all night doing something, and he's just, drink, rest, don't worry about it. Like, he's very, he's
commanding presence.
Yeah, he's so I quite like even the fact that he's as white as I am. Steve Reeves does kind of
he embodies
the Sandokan thing a little bit.
Sandokan, no, I would agree. So they do get kidnapped by headhunters in a scene that has lots of, again, big paper mache masks, and I wondered again, like, when did Zulu come out? Because I wondered if
64, right?
Okay, so that's interesting.
63 or 64?
Okay, I wondered because I just wondered if they would have been
and plus as well, Zulu would have been a huge production, like that would have been reported in the trades and stuff.
Of course, yeah. And there would have been photos. It's just because when we get to the very end, when basically, so they get kidnapped by headhunters, and then a dude shows up who actually is played by an actor of Indian heritage. I don't remember who he is here. But anyway, that's clearly not the right. That's weird. Anyway, so he kind of intervenes and says, look, I know Sandokan's dad. He's awesome. Come on, back off, headhunters. Sandokan's a cool dude. And then so later on, they show up in the kind of like at the end of the film, and they all lay siege to the fort, and they've all got these kind of like leather hide shields and the red coats. It all seemed very Zulu-y to me.
Right. And I mean, I suppose there's a certain extent that if you're going to tell any colonial story about indigenous people versus that, it's going to look a certain way.
The red coats, I guess. I mean, they show up in India in the next film, right? And it's not. They're not in Malaysia.
It's worth pointing out we don't necessarily want to tie with the same, because the thing with Zulu is I can understand why some people might find Zulu a problematic film, but in and of itself as a film, Zulu is actually a pretty excellent and respectful action adventure film. I
think so, and I think also if you see Zulu Dawn, which kind of gives context to what's happening in Zulu, then you obviously have a lot more understanding and I think sympathy towards why the Zulus are attacking this.
No, I understand that, but that's not letting Zulu off the hook, because it was made 15 years earlier. But what I'm saying, I don't think Zulu. I agree with you, but I think Zulu stands up by itself,
on its own. Yeah,
I think it's just because of when it was made, I suppose, more than anything else. And like there was a bit of too soon about it or something, you know, like harking back to, but I don't. I mean, I might be wrong. I might be naive.
Now that's someone that Marquis Smith's uncle or granduncle is in, right? Like not the movie, but was apparently there.
Right, at Rorke's Drift. Well, the Fall did play the Zulu theme tune before they came on stage sometime.
Yeah, apparently it was one of only 3 movies he would allow to be shown on the bus. So yeah, if you were stuck on in a Fall tour, it was Zulu or one of whatever the other 2 films were.
Right.
I've been reading that book anyway. So yeah, one other thing I will say is this also anticipates Django, when Steve Reeves picks up a Gatling gun and fires it like by hand and strafes a bunch of the redcoats at one point. And I was like, yeah, that's a couple of years before Franco Nero does that.
Right.
And he does a lot of tossing people around like rag dolls, which I always appreciate. So
yeah,
I don't know.
It's not
like, it's too long. It's too long. But I quite liked it.
It's okay. When it started, I thought I would like it a bit more than I did. I thought, oh, this is shaping up to be. I quite like that, and it's told quite seriously, and there's a minimum of comic relief stuff and the romantic stuff as well. Doesn't feel too layered on. It like the story doesn't take a backseat because of falling for. Plus, it's very understandable. Because I took quite a shine to Genevieve. I'd never seen it before.
You're happy to see her, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, the other thing I forgot to mention about Sandokan, and this will interest you. I don't know if you came across this. None other than our old friend Paco Ignacio Taibo second.
Wrote a late Sandokan novel.
Well, more than that, he also wrote Emilio Salgari's biography.
Wow, but it all makes sense. I mean, like if you think about what his again, it's
and
that
apparently
kind of
someone else wrote like a bunch of Sandokan in space SF stories as well.
Okay, that sounds.
It kind of makes sense. Like a colonial planet.
Yeah,
taking over, and then they fight back. Or I mean, there's actually probably a lot more SF out there like that than you might.
Right.
I suppose basically that's what fucking Star Wars is. The Empire.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is the British Empire in space.
Yeah. Anyway, we don't want to sully space and talk about that.
Yes. No.
Yeah. Let us move on to our final film of the show.
Yes, Sandok il Maciste della Giungla.
Yes, now this is a hell of a title.
So Sandok the Maciste of the jungle.
Yes. So you might be thinking, oh, who's the muscle-bound big man they've got to play the Maciste of the jungle? Why, of course, it's no one else but whippet thin Sean Flynn of Getting Lost and Killed in Cambodia fame.
Yes. I didn't know this about him. I didn't even know that Errol Flynn had a son until I watched this film, and I was like, oh. And then I went to his Wikipedia entry and found out, he died quite young.
I thought I'd discussed this with you in the past, but it's obviously someone else. No, I was familiar with Sean because he turned up as one of the main real-life characters in the classic Dispatches book, right? The Michael Kerr book.
Okay. I've never read. Okay.
Who was I talking? I could have sworn it was you who even linked me that book, but maybe not, I guess. So for those who don't know, Sean, son of Errol Flynn, did eventually, and he sounded like he had a bit of a fucked up relationship with his dad over the years.
Yes.
Anyway. Like I'm not sure Errol Flynn
feels like he has something to prove.
I don't know if Errol Flynn was winning Parent of the Year award as well, exactly, to be honest.
No.
Again, I don't know these people, I'm not throwing shade, but it just seems to be. But famously he ended up, he had a career where he was in this film. He also played Zorro, some spaghetti westerns as well. And basically became a war journalist, a photojournalist. And he went to a few different places, but went to Vietnam basically during the war. And then when the bombings out into Cambodian territory and the war kind of spilled over the border, he was one of the people who, him and someone else whose name escapes me, a couple of journalists, they got on a motorcycle and they took off for Cambodia and basically
disappeared, right?
Yeah, although chances are they were
declared dead, so I'm sure they died, but they were never found.
The Khmer Rouge. So yeah, it's kind of ill-fated. But anyway, he's no Maciste.
No. Although when finally, so like the Sandok character does actually show up, and he is a big muscly dude.
Yeah, I suppose it does say Sandok il Maciste del Jungla, but he's hardly fucking. So yeah, this is Milko Palmara in blackface.
Yes,
as Sandok. 5 minutes is he in it?
No, I mean he's in it a fair amount, actually, surprisingly.
Really?
I barely remember it.
But there's lots of ways of him running around, like walking about and then back to White Man Sean, right?
Yes, who plays Dick?
Right,
Lieutenant Dick Ramsey. Who is this?
One question, sorry, one thing before we put Sandokan the Great to bed. Is Adolfo Celli in it?
I don't see him anywhere.
I don't see him. He's on the IMDb.
I just noticed that too, and I was like, I don't. Yeah,
seems unlikely. I mean, because he's in Thunderball pretty soon after, right?
Yeah. No, I definitely didn't see him in there.
Do you think he was in there, like hiding out with blackface?
I mean, was he behind Nello?
Sri Lanka or something, or was in Sri Lanka at the time? Happened across the set, and he was like, "Oh, I'll join you fellows on a day off or something." That's a very accurate.
That's a very accurate Adolfo. Yeah, I would imagine. Yeah. He definitely had a nasal British
just like
accent. No, I didn't see him, but who knows? I mean, I will say I've noticed that they're pretty good at, generally speaking, catching that stuff on IMDb, because every time Nello shows up and it says, Nello uncredited, I will see him. I'm like, oh, there he is for like 2 seconds, waving a scimitar.
I was just wondering how that got started, if he is in it or not. I would wager not, but I wouldn't be surprised if he turned out to be in it. Anyway,
so Sean plays Lieutenant Dick Ramsey. The film opens actually with another guy who looks almost identical to him, which is very confusing later on, when they're both wandering around in the same white shirt and the same blonde hair, who is an Italian actor whose name I'm not remembering. He plays Reginald. Giacomo Rossi Stewart, who plays Reginald. And so I know him, and I was watching, I was like, I know that guy really well, but from like one performance, and I was like, what the hell movie is it? And then I went to IMDb and discovered what it is. He is the only other actor almost in I Am Legend, the original Last Man on Earth version with Vincent Price. He plays Ben, the guy who shows up every night and shouts, like his old friend who's now a zombie vampire. Anyway, which was apparently made the same year as this, which is why I recognize him, because it's the same time of his life. But anyway, the movie begins with him getting kidnapped along with his girl, Cynthia, and they're very British, and they get kidnapped by a cult of like thuggy. No, that's Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, but basically the same thing.
Basically, a cult,
the white elephant cult,
who have a white elephant, who hang out in an underground pagoda with a white. I have to admit, it took me like until the finale. I was like, is that looks like a real elephant, but it sure is acting weird. Like it's doing that stepping thing. Like it couldn't see. I was wondering if they had it drugged or it was just.
I mean, they would do that,
it was in those days. And I couldn't quite tell. That could be a really realistic elephant suit with some people in it. But
I don't think so.
No. But then eventually in the finale, where it breaks down a wall and stuff, you're like, oh yeah, that is a proper elephant.
Oh yeah, and there you go. There's Chekhov's elephant, because in an earlier act, the guy says this elephant is a metaphor for the Indian people who are. Well, in that case, why have you chained it up, asshole? But whatever. And eventually it will break free, and they're like, okay, well, I guess we'll wait for that to happen then. But yeah, so they get kidnapped by this cult. Lieutenant Dick Ramsey is hanging out back at the fort, being a real douche. I quite like this actually because he's a bit like Pierre Brice's asshole version of Zorro. He's a real dick, like when he's introduced, and you don't get a really good read on him because he's being very sarcastic, and people are asking like, "Oh, do you think they'll survive?" And he's like, "No, I'm sure either they're already dead or they wish they were dead." And you're like, "Whoa!" And then he appears to be attempting to steal something. The Maharaja is there, which I didn't catch, funnily enough, the first time I watched it. That is the same guy who showed up later on. No, I was going back through it too. I was going back through it to screen cap it when I was like, "Oh, that's that." Okay, yeah, that's the villain. They did introduce him at the very beginning. I just didn't catch it for whatever reason the first time I watched it.
Crazy man.
Anyway, so he then apparently escapes. I love his escape scene because I mean, as it turns out later in the film, spoilers, we discover that he's actually been tasked with faking the theft, faking being stripped of his rank so he can go off and kind of rescue them, and so because he beats the shit out of the other guy who's clearly his friend, who comes in and is like, "Oh, buddy, are you all right? Like you're, yeah." And he just hammers on him. And then I love this too because he's the whitest of the white. Multiple scenes in this movie have him putting on a turban and like tying up a dressing gown and apparently just walking out of places and being like, "Yep, pretty sure I'll pass."
Yes.
And so, yeah, anyway, he escapes, goes off, finds, there's a great scene where he wrestles a snake. He's rescued by Sandok, the Maciste of the jungle, who is traveling with Maria Versini, who is most definitely not appropriate to be playing Princess Dara because she's under a lot of makeup here.
Yes. I suppose what interests me most about this is the fact that it was obviously commercially viable enough to make a fake Sandok film. Because that kind of is lost now to, we don't remember, but clearly, they've thought it was worth doing, and I suppose they were in Sri Lanka anyway.
Yeah, they had all the red coats from the Sandokan movie they just finished.
Something else. I'm just curious.
They rented the monkey. They'd rented the tiger.
Yeah. Why did they do this as opposed to tell another Sandokan story? Or I guess maybe it was just a matter of telling, quick, come up with another vaguely similar story, and then we'll put Mimo Palmara in blackface and we can call him Sandok. And we'll call him Maciste of the jungle, and then
right.
This film is called, by the way, because we didn't mention in English, it is known as Temple of the White Elephant.
Which is slightly less exciting a title,
but it's more honest.
Yes, it is. Yep. So another actor that I quite like in this is Dakar.
Wrestler,
yeah. Who's a pro wrestler who's in like Ator and Zombie Flesh Eaters, amongst other things.
Yeah, he's in a whole bunch of things. I've seen him pop up. I think he was also in Sandokan the Great, right? I think he was in there somewhere.
Okay, but he has a much larger role in this, and he gets to do lots of bear hugging and kidney chopping and like wrestly kind of stuff. And also, he has a great scene, which is again like, so when they get to the temple and when there's lots of like running around and adventure and stuff going on in there, and also that's where they have Reginald, who's like tied up behind some like blankets, on the wall, with these spears sticking in his neck and a little water drop happening to his head.
The water fountain, I guess. Although you don't really see much of it. It's just they show,
it shows this thing dripping a bit.
Should we do that again, viewers? Don't forget to put some things through the Nick's hyperbole translation machine, because he has said there's this great scene at least 5 times now, and you should be reading that as there's a scene, vaguely entertaining scene,
or there is a scene involving this. So anyway, so there's a bit where Dick once again he's now got himself again, because this movie has so much back and forth that you just lose track of who's captured by who, what's happening. It's ridiculous, but it does have this very strongly Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom vibe.
I was waiting for a minecart scene. I really was.
It's weird how much it is. Like, our main cult leader guy is straight up just Mola Ram, and he's even got his like so that the white girl they kidnapped has been basically drunk the blood of Mola Ram or whatever, and is completely brainwashed for most of the film. But there's a scene that I quite liked, which is Dakar with a bullwhip, no less, whipping the shit out of Errol Flynn's son while he's suspended over a leopard pit. And I was like, yeah, this is what I pay for in my matinee entertainment.
I really do think that I mean, I know obviously it's not secret, I think that the Indiana Jones films were based on all these old serials and stuff like that. But I wouldn't be surprised if more specifically this was one of a handful of films maybe that
I feel like it has to have had some part of the
either George Lucas
DNA
saw it when they were a kid or something, and remembered certain bits, because it is, it's very, it does have really strong, but again, I suppose, and
in all the wrong ways as well.
Well, it's interesting as well. I suppose
all the issues that are in
you could argue that the movie. You could argue that almost any post Haggard King Solomon's Mine thing that has a white hero in a far-flung colonial land and involves cults and underground things, you could argue that I suppose it's all going to come out in the wash in a strictly similar way, so it's not necessarily a direct lift, but yeah, there was a strong Temple of Doom feeling. There's no getting around that, whether it's totally coincidental or not. It's definitely worth mentioning.
And they did deign to in this one. There's Redley B. Rajappa, who plays Prince Baram, who appears to again be one of the only ethnically appropriate actors in the entire film. He gets decent screen time, although he does get shot almost immediately upon them escaping, and then kind of becomes useless. And then there's a scene where Dick is wading through exactly the same swamp with all the lilies and stuff floating in it, or whatever the hell it is, from the. It's quite. You almost get deja vu at certain points of this film. You're like, what is this? This is just a scene from the last movie. But
no, it is kind of interesting to me that this film was clearly made to cash in on, just because that whole stuff is just, we don't remember any of that anymore, and it doesn't. So obviously, and when you see them in the listed or whatever, you see Sandox, and you assume, this is probably a sequel to that, and then when you get into the nitty gritty of exactly, what is what, and it's kind of. I found researching this more interesting than actually watching the films. But to be honest, that is often the case. Right.
Well,
so
I'm hoping that I'm hoping that if watching the films for you is a slog, that at least hopefully talking about them is slightly less of a slog. Surely
this, unless maybe the very last episode as well, must be the worst episode in terms of content.
Well, we'll find out.
Yeah, we're going to find out, and so will you, gentle viewer. Right, what have we learned about Umberto Lenzi? Because I should probably wrap this up, just because I got to be soon. I got to be learning my lines because I'm playing a well-fed Gandhi in a Saigon episode.
Oh,
inspired by Steve Reeves as Sunday.
Yes, excellent. So, what have we learned about Lenzi? Lenzi is competent for sure. He can handle spectacle. He can make a nice.
He can.
I'll give he can make a nice looking movie. I feel like when he's let off the leash a little bit. I mean, it's hard to say, but like definitely the two films that have the greatest edge in this are the bizarre scenes in The Invincible Master Rider. Which seemed like from a different film, and the stuff from Duel of Fire, which is just that little bit meaner.
However, thus far, I would definitely say, for instance, if someone had showed me all 8 of these films and didn't tell me they were all directed by the same person, wouldn't have guessed. There's no strong directorial.
There's Nello. Don't forget. Don't forget Nello.
Well, there's Nello, but then again, Nello was probably in everyone else's films at the same time, right? I don't think he was specific to.
He was doing 6 movies a day.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you are right. I mean, I suppose that's why at this point of his career, and maybe also why to some degree because he did take a hand, or have a hand in almost everything, every generic cycle, why he's considered to not have had the same kind of authorship as maybe a Dario Argento or some of those.
But certainly not Argento,
for better or for worse.
Fulci or someone like that, right? Like I think is maybe a better example, because I don't think Dario Argento has ever really made films that aren't Dario Argento films, right? Even early on.
But they're increasingly shit later on.
Yeah, but they're still Argento shit, though, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe you're right. Because Fulci is probably a better example, because you can almost always tell a Fulci movie. Well, that's yes and no. His comedies and stuff are. I mean, again, how much of Fulci have you actually seen?
Well, the early stuff is slightly more spotty, but I have seen here, and sorry, just hit by way of somebody. What I mean, I wouldn't want to overstress it, but I'm just saying, if you're going to make the comparison, I would say that even early on, when he hadn't yet found this strong Fulci identity, there's more Fulci in early Fulci than there is
Lenzi. Yeah. So I wonder when we get to, if we'll start to see more when we watch all of the giallos close together, or when we watch. I still think, to my mind, his greatest contribution to world cinema is his brace of Polizios with Maurizio Merli and Thomas Millian and Henry Silva and all of those guys. I think those films are fucking fantastic.
Just to fill you with just context, I've had to listen to this for years.
I'm looking forward to suffering through each and every one of those.
This time, though, the thing is, I do have my head on now. Like, I think if I don't fall in love with those films like you have this time round,
right,
I'm probably not
never going to happen.
Yeah,
I would agree.
Yeah,
I would agree.
Yeah. So anyway, but that's way further on. So we got another 8 lenses coming up.
Yep, we're getting into some spy stuff, which is definitely, for me, not my favorite in the Italian genre cycle at all. So it'll be interesting. That may be tougher for me than anything we did in this one.
Oh, I know. I'm quite glad to be getting away from because regardless, I think everything in general is being ramped up in terms of sex and violence. Right, slowly at first.
Right,
but I think we're getting away a little bit from this slightly
the matinee
genteel kind of, which has its place, but it's just all in one go like this. I mean, not counting the bizarre bits in Invincible Masked Rider.
Yeah. Okay,
then, right.
Okay.
Until next time, this has been insert title, which I've forgotten.
Something about an iguana's bumhole.
Yes, that's the important bit. So yeah.
We need Darren to come on just to film that part, so we can bring his vocal effect, his echoing bumhole.
We shall return to the bumhole in another week, actually, if this all goes to plan. So until then,
toodaloo.
The triumphant MACISTE and SARTANA prepare their coffins for the criminal syndicate in the jungle hell of an iguana's bumhole.